Eloise, Michigan historical marker inscription side 1 says, in 1839 Wayne County purchased the Black Horse Tavern, a stagecoach stop, located here on the Chicago Road, for use as a poorhouse. Early on the poorhouse accepted not only the county's indigent, but the infirm and mentally ill as well. During the late 19th century, the number of residents grew, and new buildings were constructed to meet the demand. In 1894 a post office opened on the grounds with the name Eloise, a name that became synonymous with what developed into a 902-acre, 75-building complex. By the late 1920s Eloise's population had peaked at 10,000 patients and 2,000 staff. A city in itself. Eloise had its own farm, cannery, bakery, cemetery, employee housing, police and fire departments, trolley and train stations, and 16 kitchens that served 30,000 meals daily. Eloise, Michigan historical marker inscription side 2 says, Wayne County's medical complex, Eloise, was founded as a poorhouse in 1839. It eventually became one of the largest public healthcare facilities in the U.S. The most advanced medical and psychiatric treatments were used here. During the early 20th century, Eloise physicians pioneered the use of X-rays for diagnostic purposes, radium for the treatment of cancer, and open-air treatment for tuberculosis. Psychiatric patients underwent electroshock and insulin shock therapy, as well as music, recreational, and television therapy. Psychiatric care ended in 1979, and the General Hospital closed in 1984. Most of the complex's 75 buildings were razed by the mid-1980s. More than 7,100 patients are buried in the Eloise Cemetery, their graves marked only by numbered blocks.
And so I was born in our apartment at Eloise, and while babies were born in hospitals at that time, my mother decided she wanted me born at home because babies were being mixed up and you not always got the right one. And she wanted to make sure she got her own.
And the building on the right was the old schoolhouse. From 1839 until 1887, the county house actually had children living at it that were largely orphans of accidents or pandemic and disease outbreaks in Detroit. Now, the state did mandate that they had to be educated, so when they could, attendants and clerks would try to educate the children as best they could. There was originally a small log cabin out by the river that they used, and when it burned down, the county built this building to act as a schoolhouse. And it would have a full-time teacher there to educate the orphans that lived there. In 1887, though, they decided that it really wasn't the best place for them to live, and many of them were adopted out to local families to be taken care of.
I wondered where the financial support came from for the hospital all those years.
Oh, that's a good question. That I don't have the answer for. It was ran by the county, so the county gets taxes. The county gets taxes. I'm not sure. I'm going to have to check into that. I know now, it will be financed by this company that bought it. And I know a lot of people thought $1, but that property was on sale for a long time, and it was not easy to dispose of. There's tunnels. There was tunnels from every building to other buildings, and they have to be, taken care of. The powerhouse has a basement that's deep, and that's, of course, going to be gone. So the house properties just didn't sell, and they do have a clause in their contract that if this company does not do what they say they're going to do, there's a certain amount of time they'll have to do it. The county can buy it back for $1. So, no, I'm going to have to figure that out. I just assumed back in the 1939. I wasn't born that far ago, and I don't know what taxes or how Detroit or the county was run. So, well, when we first started the Friends of Eloise, we had a group of people around, and this one girl said she remembers driving by, and there was patients at those black gates and shaking them and yelling. And then the last one to talk was Betty, and she told how they did it when they were in high school, and it was really a funny thing. And then you do think about them, playing games. And I did live close to Eloise when I came back from California. In fact, I lived in a white old farmhouse on Henry Rough across from Eloise. And my daughter went to Elliott School, and Dr. Gloss, who was at Eloise, he and his wife was very active with the PTA, and she got invited to their son's birthday party. And I drove her there, and that was the first time I drove on Eloise, and I didn't know what to think of it, but it's fine. And as I said, there was a lot of children that lived there, and they lived quite a normal life. So I imagine the way that it was run, it was very safe, and it is. It gives a whole different story to Eloise.
Was that a self-sustaining farm over there? I heard you say something earlier to that effect.
What was
they
that?
They had a farm,
Yeah, there was.
farm?
Yes, there was 2 farms. As I said, one was fed the poorhouse, and the other was the asylum. And then as years went by, there was one farm, although, and they did. They had cattle. They used to take their cattle and what other animals, and it was a farm. And what was surprising is they grew tobacco. Now, I didn't know tobacco could grow in Michigan, but if you go over to the Eloise Museum, we have packs of cigarettes and some tobacco to chew, and it's made, from tobacco grown at Eloise, which surprised me when I got reading that.